Deion Sanders and Colorado want greatness in 2024, but being average won't hurt them.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borba. This episode is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Check them all out today at nissanusa.com. We're also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcast. So thank you guys for tuning in and making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Like I said, we're talking about how Colorado could be great by being average. And you're probably like, what does that mean? Like, you're probably thinking of that one Kobe Bryant commercial where I think it was Kanye West, like, WTF, Kobe Bryant. What does that mean? Like, what does it mean? And realistically, it's quite self-explanatory. I think it's pretty straightforward, but I think a lot of people are missing the point. I think a lot of people are wanting Colorado to go from 4-8 to 12-0, and they're kind of missing that next part. And it's okay to shoot for 12-0 because realistically, Colorado's roster is so much better that when you shoot for 12-0 and say it doesn't work out, this roster is so much more talented that it's going to be 8-4, 9-3. And so let me tell you why. So I look at this offense line last year, and obviously they gave up 56 sacks. I'm looking at just the overall pressures allowed on offense. And so I'm just looking at some of the guys that are playing the most. So, for example, Gerard Christian, he had 826 snaps at left tackle. He gave up 42 pressures. Savion Washington, he had 660 snaps at right tackle, played a lot of football for the Buffs there. Guess what? He gave up 20 pressures. Yep. Jack Bailey gave up 18 pressures, playing left guard at over 750 snaps. Sorry, that was tough to get out for some reason. Van Wells was probably their best offensive lineman. He had an 81 pass blocking grade. He was a lot better. But then you look at the penalties. Jack Bailey had 9. Van Wells had 6. Savion had 7. Gerard has 5. Kareem Harden, sorry, lost my little train of thought right there. He had 5. Like, this unit was so bad, arguably the worst in college football. They gave up 56 sacks. They really made life miserable for Shedeur Sanders, whether he never said it, which I think kind of says a lot about him as a leader. But that unit was horrendous last year. They could not block anyone. And realistically, that was their biggest flaw. And now I know a lot of people were upset with the way Coach Prime handled how he said he was going to replace them, but that's the name of the game. You don't get to be that bad and then kind of be protected, if you will. Like, Coach Prime did as best as he could by protecting this unit. Shedeur never said anything about the unit. And then finally, when people kept asking what he's going to do to improve the unit, he was like, well, I got to replace them. That's what I have to do. So he goes out, brings in 5 transfers. Justin Mayers, Washington, Tyler Johnson. He brings in all these guys, Yakiri Walker, and it's like, this is great. This is great. And realistically, it is great because you look at what they were last season. Like I said, 56 sacks, and that is an absurd amount. You just can't be giving up that many sacks and expecting to win at all. But yeah, you look at just all these guys that they're bringing in across the offense line, and it's like they have a guy in Khalil Benson who started at the Power 5 level. Last year, they were bringing in guys who went to Power 5 programs that had yet to see the field, and they were hoping for a lot. They were bringing in guys that were solid group of 5 players, and they were not ready for the Power 5 level. This year, they're bringing in guys with Power 5 experience. If they're not from the Power 5, they started a lot of games and are proven, and I think there's just an emphasis on bringing in guys that are quality talent rather than a quantity of talent. And so when I say they could be average and still be great, I think realistically, if you look at who gave up the most sacks last season, outside of Colorado, or who gave up the least amount of sacks last season, it's all these teams that were bad. Like, it's not shocking. Realistically, the more sacks you give up, the worse you are. The more or the less that you can protect your quarterback, the worse your team is going to be. Shocker, I know, but you look at like all the teams. So let me scroll all the way down to the bottom. Colorado gave up 56. The only team really that was good that gave up a lot of sacks was Alabama. They gave up a lot because Jalen Milroe runs a lot. And so I think that kind of hurts them in a way because obviously you don't know where he is sometimes. I think that was kind of a problem that like the Seahawks had with Russell Wilson and stuff like that. But you just look at all these teams and it's like, okay, if Colorado could just be a smidge better, they would be so much better on the field. And so it's just really crazy to think that a lot of people are like, this Colorado team's not going to go anywhere next season. It's like their biggest weakness was arguably one of the most important aspects of the game. If you look at who else allowed a lot of sacks, I'm looking at programs 101 through 130 right now. Auburn, bad. Georgia Southern, Middle Tennessee, Baylor, bad. North Carolina, not very good. Hawaii, terrible. Washington State, terrible. UCLA, bad. Florida, bad. USF was solid. Illinois, not so great. So I'm Nevada, one of the worst programs in the country. So a lot of these programs that are giving up a lot of sacks were bad. And so if you cut your sacks in half, which for Colorado would be, we'll go 56 divided by 2. Sorry, I'm not a mathematician. I had to do it out. 28. 28. So now we go into the 28 range. And it's like, okay, that's teams like Clemson, who was solid. Wyoming, who had a fair season. Texas, playoff team, 28 sacks. Utah, 25. They were one of the better teams in the Pac-12, even with their injuries. I think the injuries kind of took the wind out of their sails a little bit. Arizona, 26 sacks. And so I think realistically, if Colorado is in this range of like in the 50s of sacks allowed, which they could be better, they could be way better. And this is just me like undershooting them or undercutting them a lot. If they are in that range, think of all the damage that Shedeur Sanders could do. He was breaking records, throwing the ball all over the yard, slinging it all over the yard, finding Travis Hunter, Jimmy Horn, Xavier Weaver with the worst offensive line in college football. Imagine what he does with an offensive line that doesn't have him running for his life every day. Imagine what he does with an offensive line that can allow for the run game to get things going because they had no run game. I think people will argue with me all the time and say they could have ran it, and you're right. They physically could have ran it. Running the ball, though, for them was practically a waste of time because it was, I think they averaged like two yards per carry, 3 yards per carry as a team. It was nothing special. So you bring in a much better offensive line. You bring in a defense line that's much better and probably not nearly as good as many people would hope. But this team is still worlds better than what they were last season. So I think it goes for both sides of the trenches too. I kind of just threw in the defense line there at the end. Yeah, I want to throw this in before I moved on. As a team, they averaged 2.3 yards per carry rushing. So the offensive line, if they are average, which we'll just cut in half, put them right in the middle, they are right in the middle where most teams are. A lot of teams want to have an offensive line that's elite. Not every team will. A lot of teams want to have an elite pass rusher, an elite run-stopping defense. Not all of them will. But when you are statistically the worst at both of those things, and you kind of just jump up, like let me just put it this way. Colorado ranked 103rd, or 103rd. They wish. They ranked, I think it was 130th in sacks allowed, or 129th. Imagine if they ranked 50th. So like imagine if you're just going from like the 139th or the 131st best team in the country at like 131 or 134, I think it is now, and you just jump up to the top 50. That'd be huge. That is like the difference between 4-8 and 8-4 or 9-3. Like that's a huge jump. So Colorado, while most people don't want to hear that they're shooting for average, I don't think they're shooting for average, but I think it's okay if this line's average because it's going to be so much better than what they were last season. And they have the playmakers to kind of build around, or they kind of have the playmakers to hide their flaws. This team could be worlds better. And most people won't even realize that their offense line's average because it's like, this is just so much better than what they had last year. It's going to be a completely different team. So I think you guys are going to be in for a pleasant surprise next season if this line works out, if everyone stays healthy. Comment below, how many sacks do you think Shedeur Sanders, how many times do you think he's going to be sacked this next season? He was sacked 56 times this past season. How many times are you foreseeing Shedeur Sanders getting sacked this next season? When we come back, we're going to be talking about why Colorado's spring game, is not going to be on ESPN. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be next around the corner? Our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. The 2024 Nissan Rogue is perfect for city drives and great escapes. Its class-exclusive Google built-in is always updating assistant to call for almost everything. You can rely on it for anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are all built right into the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system. That's ginormous. That's really big, really easy to see. The 2024 Rogue is the perfect midsize crossover for your next adventure. Or you could check out another one of Nissan's great cars from the lineup. The 2024 Nissan Pathfinder has room for up to 8 passengers, an expansive cargo capacity, and advanced 4x4 capability. With 284 horsepower and up to 6,000 pounds towing, when adventure calls, the Pathfinder is there to answer. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop nissanusa.com. Again, that's nissanusa.com. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and making me your first listen of the day. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow. Give me 5 stars. I'd greatly appreciate it. We're 20 subscribers away from 5,000. We are right there, heading down the finish line, and it is so exciting. We're going to get to 5,000, 6,000, 10,000. It's going to be awesome. But before we get to all that, we got to talk about the spring game. Last season, Colorado spring game was a spectacle. I went. It was awesome. I wasn't dressed appropriately. I checked the weather. I'm from California. And so I was like, cool. It says it's going to be 60 degrees. Sounds perfect. I brought out like a flannel. I was like, it's going to be fine. We'll be all right. Well, it started snowing. It was freezing cold. The game was at, I think, like 10 a.m., 11 a.m., whatever it may be. And people were tailgating at 8 a.m. People were juiced. It was like, it felt like I was at the spring game of a national title contender or national title winner. Excuse me. And so it's one of those things where it's like you would have to assume that a lot of people would be tuning into it again. And for some reason, ESPN will not be televising, or at least that's what the reports from Scott Proctor, our good buddy, friend of the show, is reporting right now. ESPN's not televising it. And it's like, oh, that's odd. Last year, Colorado had the second most watched spring game ever on ESPN since 2016. It was up 92% year over year. It amassed 550,000 viewers, which for a spring game is pretty good. Like everyone knew it was like the first time we saw Deion Sanders, but as someone who was there, it was like, I think people forget it's a glorified practice. So there's at like one point it's like game like, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, the defense is over here doing drills and the offense is over there doing drills. Because at the end of the day, it's a practice. It's a glorified practice. It was also interesting because I want to say majority of the players that we saw, not majority, but it might have been majority or close to a majority of the players that we saw at that spring game were not on the team. Like Montana Lamonius Craig, not there. That whole offense line that was blocking for him for the most part, not there. Like they had so many guys that weren't there. And so the Colorado spring game this year, I expected to kind of be more of a spectacle, but I saw Scott's report and I was like, interesting. Why wouldn't ESPN pick it up? Well, my guess is because they're televising some other games on ESPN Plus. Most spring games are not televised. Last year it was Colorado on ESPN, and then it was Georgia on ESPN2, I believe it was. So it's like, where would Colorado go? Well, I think this would be my expert opinion, if you will, or my expert hot take, or just a casual hot take, whatever you want to call it. I think because they said they're going to announce it soon. I imagine it's going to be connected with Big Noon because obviously Coach Prime has a good relationship with Skip Bayless and all those guys. Big Noon Kickoff was at Colorado for like the first month of their season last year. So I think it's going to be Big Noon Kickoff for Colorado, or not Big Noon Kickoff, I guess. But I think it's going to be Fox Sports. And I would assume that it's going to be some grand announcement. I would assume like this is like a bold prediction, bold conspiracy. Wherever they televise it, because if you guys don't remember, they're doing Prime Day or Prime Week, so it's like fashion show one day. There's going to be like a party with DJs that are white, black, Hispanic, and they're going to have all cultures included. It's going to be awesome. They're going to have a halftime performance. I think he was telling Lil Wayne. It wasn't going to be Lil Wayne, but he's going to have some musician, probably one of the more famous ones, because obviously he has quite a few in his Rolodex, I believe is what it's called. I know Corday was at the spring game last year, I believe. Rick Ross was frequent in a few games. DJ Khaled obviously doesn't sing, but he knows quite a few people. So there's going to be a big name. Maybe it's Lil Wayne. He's associated with FS1 at times, so maybe it's going to be him. But I think this is how it's going to go down. Colorado spring game is probably, this is my prediction. This is not me saying it's going to happen. This is my prediction for the spring game. It's going to be on FS1 prediction. Obviously, you get Joel Klatt there, former Colorado quarterback. You get Gus Johnson, the most exciting play caller in college sports. And then you have the whole spectacle that is Colorado football. You see Shador, you see Travis, you see this new offensive line, you see the receivers, Jimmy Horn, LeJohntay Wester. And then they have the show, which Coach Prime said he might end the game early so that way people could watch the show on TV, kind of like a concert, if you will. And then I think if Shador Sanders is going to be announced as the cover athlete for the upcoming college football video game, I think it would be at the spring game. And so that is my prediction. I think it's going to be, well, we can keep track of how many I get right. I'll go 3 bold predictions or 4 bold predictions. Colorado spring game is going to be on FS1. I think it's going to draw more viewers than it did last year. I think the performer, he was telling Lil Wayne, but I wonder if it is Lil Wayne. So I'm going to go Lil Wayne as my guest performer, or that's my guess. And then lastly, Shador Sanders is going to be announced as the cover athlete for the college football video game. You guys comment below what you think, because go give me 4. Are more people going to watch? Who's going to televise it? Will it be televised? Who's the performer? And will Shador be announced as the cover athlete? Because I think that's a good guess. I really think I'm onto something there. You guys comment below. Let me know what you think. I could be way off, but I think Colorado spring game is going to be a spectacle. I think it's going to be huge for recruiting again. I think it's going to be huge for just drawing attention to the program. And I think Coach Prime knows exactly what he's doing by kind of making a whole festivity, because obviously after spring games, college football goes into this, like, I go into like this dark hole of like, oh, I miss college football. Now I'm watching college baseball, and I love college baseball. It's great. I love Omaha. I love following all these teams, but nothing matches the energy of college football. Like, that college football is my favorite. So everyone, all the college football fans and diehards, like, ugh, now it's months without college football. So those are my predictions. You guys let me know. I think it's going to be a huge event. I think it's going to really help out Colorado just by showing kind of the reach that they have, kind of the success that players can experience if they go there off the field, and then on the field product that's going to come with wins. That's pretty much as simple as that. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the latest things that are happening around Colorado. But first, a word from our sponsors over at FanDuel. Say goodbye to busted brackets, because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a 1 seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. Teams that I would look to avoid. You got to avoid Purdue. I feel like they've been struggling. They are not who they are always made out to be. They are never that team that makes it all the way to the finals. Teams to look out for on the rise. Colorado, if they sneak into the tournament, they're a good team. They got good guards play. They got good big men. They got it all. And then some sleeper teams for upsets. You got to look at USF if they make it. You got to look at USF. Look at Colgate for an upset if they get higher than a 16 seed. Look out for these teams. You guys comment below who you think you got cutting down the nets at the end of the year. But make sure you're placing down your wagers over at FanDuel. Again, that's FanDuel.com/lockedon to bet college hoops until they cut down the nets. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, give me those 5 stars. We're talking about all the latest around Colorado, starting off with a coaching departure, kind of. Chandler Durrell, the son of Carl Durrell, the former head coach, wrote a letter saying that his time at Colorado had come to a conclusion. And he said, "I'm thankful to have been able to serve this university for the past 4 years. I've come to work every day with the goal of giving everything to this program and university, and it's given me so much in return." He said, "Thank you, Coach Prime. Thank you to Coach Prime and staff for allowing me the opportunity to showcase my talent through my work. And thank you all the coaches, support staff, student athletes I've crossed paths with, in my time here at CSU, CSU is my school. Here at CU, the friendships and relationships I've formed in Boulder will last a lifetime." Not sure what his next step is, but reports say the personnel staff will now go through Corey Phillips and Devin Rispress, I believe is how you pronounce it. Rispress came over from Florida A&M and has already kind of put his stamp on things. We're going over to the hardwood now, because I got some interesting news, kind of interesting story for you guys that I wanted to share. So Colorado obviously has a first round bye on the men's side. for their tournament, which starts for them on Thursday. For the rest of everyone else starts tomorrow, Wednesday. And they are going to play the winner of Utah and Arizona State. And you're probably like, okay, so why does that matter? Well, let me tell you. Utah, their best player, I don't know what happened to his elbow, but it didn't look good. It was one of those situations where he was kind of getting physical in the paint with the dude from Oregon and Nafali Dante. And next thing you know, his arm got like pulled, twisted, hurt his elbow. Didn't return that game. Don't know what his status is. So Utah could be without their best player. The other day, he dropped 40, a light 40 the other day. And then Arizona State. So it's again Arizona State versus Utah to play Colorado. Arizona State's second leading scorer, Jose Perez, was on the team last week. So I think it was last Thursday. Let me just confirm with their little schedule here. Arizona State. So I'll give you guys a little breakdown dates wise. March 7th, he played against USC and put up a game high 25 points. And that was on Thursday. Saturday, they played at UCLA and he did not play. And so everyone was like, "Oh, that's odd, right?" Like he just popped off and now he's not playing. So like what happened? Well, all of a sudden, he's reported not with the team. Next thing you know, on Sunday, he made his professional debut in the Dominican Republic. So Utah, maybe without their best scorer, their best player in general, he's a big man. So that also helps out Colorado, opens up the paint a little bit for them. But Arizona State, their second leading scorer, is now playing professionally in the Dominican Republic. So realistically, Colorado, who's kind of viewed as an on the bubble fringe team, they have a chance to advance to the semifinals against a Washington State or Bay Area program, whoever wins that matchup. So I thought that was really interesting. I just want to share that with you guys, because that's kind of what they need. They need to advance and survive and advance, and winning games, it helps. It helps. And then also when it comes to the women's team, they are projected to host the NCAA women's basketball tournament. So other things around the country helped out with number 17 Oklahoma losing to Iowa State in the Big 12 tournament. Iowa State was unranked. Colorado is now projected to be a 4 seed, which means that they would probably be able to host a tournament game or host the tournament. So that'd be really exciting for them. And yeah, those are my updates around Colorado. You guys let me know what you guys want me to talk about. I saw some great suggestions yesterday, and I'm going to be talking about those throughout the week. Have some guests on, hopefully this week and next week. And I can't wait for you guys to tune in every single day. Make sure to comment what your guys' thoughts are on the spring game. My 4 predictions, give me your 4 predictions. And I hope you guys have a great Tuesday. I will see you guys tomorrow.